Welcome back, guys. This is Legit Lee back again with another DIY video for you. So my DIY C02 laser cutter is finally able to produce what I need it to. It's been a long few weeks, but I finally got everything set up the way I need. So I did some test cuts with this machine using LaserCAD. That's the generic software that comes with the Troson AWC708S. That's a mouthful, but that's the controller that I'm using. It's standalone. You can completely configure it without even needing a computer, which is fantastic, and it runs completely standalone as well. You can just pop in a flash drive, whatever job you have already loaded on it, and print it right off of there. So it's great. A lot of parts, like I mentioned in previous videos, are 3D printed. I use an Ender 3 and a CR10. Both of them are able to be printed on either one, so you don't have to have a CR10 or an Ender 3 to print out the parts. And so I had to heavily mod everything, but I got it to do what I need it to do. So I'm using LaserCAD, and I'd rather use Lightburn. I'm probably going to wind up having to get it because I couldn't use RDWorks for some reason. Only Lightburn and LaserCAD works with the Troson, but it's fine. And so I cut this cube, this first one. This is a 20mm cube with 40% power. That was just a random guess. I wasn't trying to figure it out or anything. I was like, let me just try 40. I didn't want to try 50. I felt like half power would probably be too much. So I was like, let me try 40. So 40 cut, went right through, smooth as butter, no issues there, right? And I'm going to show you guys here in a minute, but first, let's talk about this here. So 40 went through, and I was like, great. So maybe 40 is too much. Let me drop it down to 30. So I dropped it down to 30% power. And I even did a little graving. I was like, let me try engraving too, see where we're at on that. So I can do both at the same time to see what I need to set the settings for. So I did 30. It didn't cut all the way through. It was a little disappointing. And then for the engraving, the 30 was cut at 10 millimeters a second. And for the engraving, I was at 20% power at 200 millimeters a second. So then I didn't really like the engraving either. It wasn't engraved as well as I wanted it to be. So then I was like, let me try bumping it up to 35. So I did 35 for the cut and then 25 for the engraving. So 35 went through pretty decently. You can see here. And the calibration, the cube, other than it being at 35, we have 25 for the engraving, and even the engraving looks a lot better. So I'm keeping the engraving like that for now. I'm trying to show you if you guys can see it pretty well. It's looking really nice. And this is Arial font, I think is what it's called, at 12 millimeter height, thickness, or height, whatever you want to say for the font size. And so, oh yeah, let me take that back out. So what I want to talk about though, other than dialing in the settings, you would think 35 is like, okay, that's perfect. That's where you need to be at. That's what I thought too. So then I started measuring it with my caliper. And this is where it starts to get really interesting. So the caliper is going to show me where my measurements are around the cube's hole center, right? So I went ahead and measured out. Let me just bring it down to 0 so you guys can see. So when I did the measurements on the Y, we're at 20, basically 20. That was good, right? That's the 40. And then for the Y, for the X, we're a little off, and I know what that reason is, and I'm going to explain it to you here. The excursion that I have this rail riding on is only riding on one motor, right? And I don't think I did the best job, because I'm only human, for cutting and turning this T slot into a V slot. So these rails are riding inside of a groove, and that groove was cut by me to get it there. And I don't think it's that fine accuracy, and lasers will always show you the most accurate information. So there's a little bit of a wobble movement inside the cut. You can barely notice it, but it's there, and I think that's what's throwing off the X's actual calibration length. So I have to fix that, which I do have a fix. I'm going to be using in the near future a linear rail I have already, and I'm just got done 3D printing the bracket out, so I just got to get it mounted and start working on it. But at the moment, that's what I'll be using. This is what I'm using at the very moment. I just want to do some test cuts with it now that I have it kind of running. So the X was obviously not the best, but it was close enough, so I was happy with that, right? So we're at like a little off, just a bit. So then the 35 is what I want to talk about. So I went from 40 down to 35, and 35 did cut through, but it didn't cut great. So compared to the 40, we're at a little above, about 0.2 of a millimeter or so. That's on the Y, which is dual motors, and that's super accurate cuts. That line is straight as silk. So literally, I shouldn't be having any issues with it. And then on the X, again, we're below our target point here. So, and I believe that's because when we're cutting down, the power rated to cut through something is very important, because it's just like a needle going through something. The first fine tip of that needle is going to be able to cut or poke through really precisely, but when it starts getting deeper, it turns into a cone. It gets thicker as it goes down. And I think that's what was happening between 35 and 40 of the cut. This must be a little concaved on the side, which is melting at an angle instead of being completely straight. And then the 40 though cut like more straighter than this one did because of the more power flowing through it. So I think that's the reason why that was going on. So literally 40% power is probably what's best for this to get it to where I need it to. Obviously you guys seen the measurements to know. And then 35 is just enough to get through. So 40 is pretty much where I'm going to stay at for my cuts, I'm thinking. And for the engraving, that 25 is perfect for plexiglass. So I'm going to have a dialed setting for all my stuff. So right now in LaserCAD, I have a setting for just cuts and for just engravings. And then I will have one for, pretty sure vinyl. I want to cut some vinyl out, stickers and stuff. So I'll have a setting for those, and then a setting for wood for engraving or cutting. So all of them will have their own dedicated cut settings. Right now I use red for the cut through and then black for my engravings. And then we'll see what happens after that. But I just want to let you guys see what was going on with the machine, and the update that it is working pretty well, and you guys can see that my measurements are really accurate as well. And I am able to move the table up and down now, because I do have a Z-axis stepper motor, NEMA 23, with a 20-tooth pulley on the end here on the shaft. And then we have skateboard bearings press fitted into some 3D printed pulleys that allow it to move smoothly. And then the belt is attached to these 60-tooth gears all around the edges of these pulleys. And this was originally an open loop belt, but I added a 3D printed bracket here that allows me to join them together. Super simple, cheap method, and it's still pretty sturdy and tight. So movement is great, and I'm able to get the height that I need right now. I will wind up probably redesigning this bracket for the NEMA 23 to flip it upside down, so that way I can have some longer travel, because I'm way up here, right? If I can literally go all the way down to the bottom, but I can't because the motor's sitting too high for the belts to line up. Unless I do like some kind of gearing thing, I'm pretty sure I could do that, where I have like a rod that goes through the middle and then everything is connected to that one rod instead. So this will be like using a CNC machine type of scenario for the Z. But right now this is what I have set up, so it's fine. And I'm not cutting, I don't have a rotary axis right now to do cups or anything, so I don't need to go super low. But for right now, this is where I'm working with, and I wanted to mention about this cube here. So I printed this on my CR10. This is a 26 millimeter cube. That's why I put 26 on here. I designed it in Blender, super quick. And the reason why is because my focusing distance is anywhere between 20 to 26 millimeters. So usually on the work surface cutting area, I'm trying to do 26 millimeters to get it where I want it at. So if you can see here, that 26 is pretty much right here. A little bit higher because it's not going all the way over, but that's fine because, like I said, I'm anywhere between 20 to 26 millimeters for the cutting height. So I'm able to bring my cube in whenever I need to focus on something. So say I get thicker material like this piece of wood or 3 millimeter thick acrylic, all I do is drop this little cube and then let it go to the height of this piece of metal here for the laser head, and then that gets me in focus every time. I hope you guys are liking the video. Please like, share, subscribe, let me know what you think. And we'll be dropping more videos. My company, Anime Everyday, is really about to start booming. I have obviously all these machines that is going to be helping me design all kind of different stuff for you guys to buy from me. And we'll have a lot of things. One of the first things I want to do is a Dragon Ball Z sign made out of acrylic. So Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, whichever one I decide to go with. Most likely it'll probably be Super because I like Ultra Instinct Goku. But nonetheless, I will be designing stuff like that. And I did want to mention also about the water system. So let me go ahead and get over here really quick before we get out of here. Right now, the water system's been running this whole time. It's super quiet. This is the original one that came with the K40. I have it in this Sterilite, I think is what it's called. Sterilite, whatever the heck that name is. Bought it from Walmart for the bin that it's sitting in. And it's fantastic, really, because the actual tub is lockable and everything. So I'm going to be literally having the hoses like drilled into the side and mounted really nice so that way I don't have to worry about it and it won't let anything in here. I use these for like my hats and all kind of stuff because like there's a lot inside of my office because these actually are like seal tight, which is weird because it doesn't have like a gasket or anything, but they're airtight. So that's why I keep my hats and everything inside of those instead of just having them just sitting out in the open air so they can just like get dry rotted or whatever over time. So anyway, I have this tub, and right here you can see we have the pump and it is running. You can't really see that because it's you can't really hear anything really. And that little hose right there was shooting out water all over the place, so there was like a port on that side, so I had to add a little hose that allows the water to go into the bottom, and that kept it super quiet now. And then I also have a flow sensor right over here that allows me to see that the water is moving. It's just because it is that quiet. And obviously you can see the water being pumped in. And I got the rest of these hose and fittings and all that stuff from Lowe's. And then this is the original K40 hoses that came with the K40, so I didn't have to change none of that out. I would have gotten the latex one. They do have that at Lowe's, but it was like 20 bucks. This right here was a 10-foot for $5. So I was like, let me just grab that for now. And I already had those clamps that allow me to adjust and screw the hose clamps. But yeah, guys, this has been working out good. And the original K40 came with this power. I'm sorry, not power, but temperature sensor. So that's inside the water down there. You can see it's at 26 degrees Celsius. I know that's probably a little high because I think they're rated. No, that's not that high. Because I think my C02, the manufacturer information was rated for like 18, I think, to like 35. So 26 is not bad. I haven't gotten over like 28, I want to say, or something yet, but I haven't ran the machine really long, so I don't know. But I did get some plastic bottles. I learned this from some guy I watched on YouTube that if you get like a plastic bottle like that, fill it up with some water, put it in your freezer, let it freeze overnight, then come out, put it inside the water, like just literally drop it in the bucket, closed like that one is. Then you won't have to worry about you won't contaminate your water or anything, and you don't have to worry about buying more distilled water or anything. So it's going to be cold water running through your system, which is great because that will last longer for your laser tube. Literally, laser tube life expectancy would definitely increase if you have colder water being ran. So, obviously anything that heats up over time starts to die, but with colder temperatures, it won't die as quick. Anyway, my name is Legit Lee, guys. Appreciate you watching until the end. And like I mentioned, this laser machine has been fully built and customized by me, yours truly. And if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns, definitely note them down in the comments down below, and I will definitely read them and get back with you.